Hello and welcome to this new video, and what I'm going to be doing here is going over the Fullpage.js library and try to reproduce the examples here in Dart. If you've been watching some of the videos that I've already made, I've been going over several of the JavaScript libraries that are out there in its ecosystem, and using the JS package in Dart, I've been essentially attempting to interoperate with those JavaScript solutions. So here in particular, we'll look at Fullpage.js, which is a library that is used for creating full screen scrolling websites or full screen presentations. So I'm here on their homepage and they've got an example here whereby you get this HTML snippet and this piece of JavaScript. And then if we go to the CodePen page, you can see that it creates this slideshow here. So what I'm going to be doing is essentially reproducing this in Dart. All right, so let's begin. So I have over here a web project set up using the stagehand scaffolding tool. And in here, I've just imported the JS package, which allows us to interoperate with our JavaScript libraries. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to start up our local server by running web-dev-serve. While that's going on, we need to import the Fullpage.js script in here. So let's go back over here to cdn.js and let's pull in the scripts we want. So it will be, we'll pull in the CSS in here. I'll place it here. And then we need the JavaScript. So I'll copy that. I'll just place that. I'll place it next to it. Okay. So once that's done, and then now next, what we need to do is I'm going to create a lib folder, and in there I'll create a file called Fullpage interop.dart. So here is where we'll actually have our interop. Here's where we'll have our interop logic. And what we will do to start off with is we need to define a JS annotation, and then we need to give this a library name. So we'll call it Fullpage interop. And to get rid of the red squiggly lines, we need to import our JS package. So the js.dart file. All right. So let me save this. And then we will go back to the documentation example, and the HTML has the structure. So David and ID of full page and our sections in it. So I'm going to copy this, and then in our index.html file, I'll place this in the body of the page, and I'll save this. We need to refresh our page to see the changes there. In fact, let me restart this and use the live reload option. So while that's happening, next we will need to essentially reproduce this. So what we're going to do is we'll come back to Fullpage interop.dart. We'll start with our JS annotation, and we'll define a class called Fullpage. That's the first thing we need. And then for our constructor, we'll mark it external, and then we'll mark it as a factory, and then we'll create our constructor, which takes in a selector. So we'll make it a string, and then the second argument, or our second parameter for this constructor, is our list our list of arguments. So all of that. So what we need to do, we'll call it, well, we need to define the type of it first. So we'll call it full page options. That's the type of it, and then options. So now we need to define this full page options here. So we use the JS annotation and we'll mark it as an anonymous. We use the anonymous annotation because we are essentially generating this, whatever we pass in here will be translated into a basic JavaScript object. So we'll mark it as anonymous, and then we'll create our class full page options for now, and then let's go back here. Well, for now, let's leave it blank and test this basic example to see if we can get something working. So I'll save this file. I'll go to main.dart, get rid of this, and let's import our interop file. Okay, and then to use this, we'll do new full page, and then our selector is going to be full page. Yep. And then for our options, I'll just create an empty full page options object. So let's save this and let's see what we get in the browser. I think there was an error earlier on, so let's restart this and see what we get. Okay, so I had to change the way I was importing the full page interop .dart file. So the way you do that is using the package prefix. You would have the name of this project, which is defined in your pubspec.yaml, full page _ example, which would bring you to the lib folder. So then we can just import our interop.dart file. So let me test this out and reload our page. Okay, so it seems we got something working. Yeah, so if I scroll down, you can scroll down to different sections, and then there's an arrow here. You can't see it because the page is a different color, but you can see that we got a basic solution working. Okay, so let's actually go and populate our options for this full page object. And in fact, I can get rid of new, because as of that, the new keyword is optional. So if I save that and I reload, it'll still work the way we expect it to. Okay, so let's populate our options. So our full page options would take in an external factory constructor, so called full page options, and in here we will define each of our options. So the first one we need to define from the documentation is a navigation, which is a Boolean value. And if we come back here, we need to define responsive width, anchors, parallax, on leave. So let's do that quickly. So the type is an integer, and then we want a responsive width, and then oops, I forget the others. Anchors, parallax, on leave. Okay, anchors, so which is a list of string anchors, and a Boolean for parallax. I think that's how you spell it. A function called on leave. Let's see. Okay, 1R. All right. So let's save this, and then let's go back here, and then we define these options. So navigation, set it to true, responsive width 700, parallax set to true, and then of course our anchors, we set it to home, about us, and then contact. Okay, and we need to define an onLeave function. So now, in regards to the onLeave function, however, it gives us 3 arguments. So an origin, destination, a direction. So what we can do is to come back here and annotate our function as such. So for now, I'll just set it as dynamic. So origin, destination, and direction. Okay, so let's come back here. And then in here, let's just do a console dot there. Let's log out each of these. Destination and direction. Let's do log for these instead. Okay, so let's inspect the page and see what we get. And if I scroll to the next section, you get this logged out into the console. Okay, so the origin gives us an object containing the details of the page we left, and of course destination is what we scrolled to, and the direction is it's a string, so it tells us we went down. So if we do that, direction is down, direction should be up, so on and so forth. So let's click this white arrow to go there. Nothing gets outputted because we're still in the same slide, just going across. And once we leave it, this gets output. Okay, cool. So let's try and add some colors to each of these slides. So I'll come back here, and I remember in the code pen example there is sections color, which is a list of strings. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come back here and go to my full page interop, and I'll define a list of strings called section colors. I think it's that way. Sections color. Sorry. Okay, so I'll save this. Come back to main dot, and then I define my sections color here. So let's save this and see what this gives us. All right, there we go. Okay, so yeah, that seems to be working. 3, and let's scroll across. Slide 2, slide. Okay, right, so I'm going to recap at this point. And I will start by going into our full page interop file. So what I did was I created a JS annotation, gave it a library name, so these are compulsory, and then we imported our js.dart file. And then to interoperate with Fullpage.js itself, we created a full page class which was annotated with the JS annotation. We created an external factory. The external keyword simply tells Dart that we are interacting with an API which is outside the Dart space, essentially. So we created an external factory called Fullpage, which takes in a string, which is our selector, and a list of options, which we've captured under our Fullpage options, which is an anonymous class. So whatever we pass in here, it will generate a normal JavaScript object for us. And then when we come to main.dart, we create an instance of our full page object, and then we pass in our list of options. One last thing I want to do before I round up is just a little thing, but then, so instead of full page with a small f, in conventional Dart or conventional programming in general, classes are usually in Pascal case. So we'll call it full page with a capital F, and then in our JS here, we will pass in a string with the actual namespace under the window object, which is full page. So let's save this and correct this one. And yep, that still works. That still works. Can still scroll across. Okay, that's good. And of course, if we want to center the text in here, we can go to our styles.css file, and then for each slide, and that should do it for us. Okay, that looks good. All right, so I'm gonna end this here, and I hope this has been pretty useful while following along with me in this tutorial. I really hope you did, and even if not, I hope you see how straightforward and easy it is to interoperate with JavaScript libraries when using Dart. So as always, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy the content being presented, do consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification icon so that you are updated when new content is released. Thank you.